Give me all your payments that you've entered into the system, anything that you've collected. Came up with, I think, right around 300,000, 309 or something like that. On the city's books, we're right around 300,000, like 306 or something. So we were pretty comfortable that the information going into the municipal court system is getting reported on at the city's level. The other thing we came in conflicts with, and we tested some of those citations and making sure they got paid and got deposited and everything like that. We had no issues there. The issue we found was that they weren't that timely. They weren't coming over depositing them quickly. But they were getting deposited as far as the sample that we selected. Couldn't test all of them, but we tested a good number of them that we were comfortable with them coming into the city's bank account eventually with the sample that we selected. Other than, I still think it's a deficiency that the servers aren't talking to each other. It'd be a lot more transparent to the finance director, or sorry, the comptroller, that she could see those deposits coming in more timely than whenever she's walking to the register to make the deposit. But still, why it's a significant deficiency for this year.
And then we talked at length to Brandy about, issues that she's having, and I really do think that she is committed to running that department in a responsible way. Her issues really were that she felt like she was thrown into it with very little training. And what she's learned, she's had to learn from her peers in other cities and just kind of researching through the program. And she feels like if she could get more training on that system, it would be enormously helpful for her, because she's discovering how to do things that she didn't know were even out there, even recently discovering those. She's shorthanded, but she said, we can't just pull somebody out of another department and say, hey, do this. She said that it really requires a little more training because we process all this stuff through the computer. So if we're going to, one officer, she showed me issued 2 citations accidentally. And she had to delete one of them, but she got the officer's approval and everybody was documenting what went on, and she went in and deleted the second citation. So she said it's not like something that we can just have somebody step into those shoes and say, do this. I mean, they've got to have some training in that system, and she feels like even she doesn't have as much training as she wishes. So just throwing that out as something that I think, council needs to be aware of, and I know there's been some frustration over here in the finance area and the city manager's area with that, but I do think she is truly trying to be responsible. So that was my take on that whole review process we did in the municipal court. Any questions?
Jeremy, do you feel the same?
I do, yeah. From talking with her in the
Last year's findings, let's pat ourselves on the back here. We didn't have a fund balance deficit. The payroll matters have been cleaned up. We're reporting that stuff on checks. Municipal court is still an issue out there. There's another letter that we'll be presenting to the rest of council. It's called the management letter. We work for you, for city council, but we spend all of our time with the staff. So if there are difficulties with the audit, you would hear about that in this letter that we issued, the management letter. And I'm pleased to announce that we had no difficulties in performing the audit. We don't believe there are any uncorrected misstatements, and the city was extremely cooperative and helpful in getting the information we needed to get our job done. So I thank you very much, and thank your staff for helping us get through this. And I think overall we have very good news here.
And from the staff's perspective, if I may, I want to say thank you to Pat and her staff, because we worked on a more aggressive schedule so that we can have this in a timely manner. As Pat has been very helpful talking to Victor Field, our financial advisor, that we need to have these to help set up what we need to go forward so that we can take care of refinancing it, so, we took an aggressive schedule and she met the deadline. Yeah. I'm the wire, I'm it, and I wanna thank you for coming out and being able
Thank
to
you.
make that, because it was a much aggressive schedule this year compared to last.
Thank you.
It's good to hear good news. There's so much coming at us all the time.
Yeah. And I'd like to not do an hour presentation tomorrow if it's all the same to you all. Just, you know, let's hit the high points, let's, you know, show the fund balance, show the budget actual, and move on. We're gonna try to keep it, if it's all right with y'all, about 15 minutes or less, so. Because, it's good to you.
I'll be so nice, I'll put you before it goes on.
I was gonna say, if you could put it before the financial presentation.
Quick question, since this is my first time in the process, and I don't expect us to be operating against any standards, but I'm just curious if there are standards for cities of our size as far as fund balances, revenues, expenses, that sort of thing, and how we might stand against those, if there are standards.
Yeah, there are, as far as like fund balance, there's no standard that says you must have a certain amount in your fund balance. However, standards do say it's gotta be positive, you know, otherwise it's a technical violation of law. Financial advisors really provide more guidance in that area. They say that we ought to have at minimum 3 months expenses in our governmental funds. They say for your utility funds, it's a little more volatile depending on weather. 4 months is probably a lot more realistic number, but that's not set in stone. But it's kind of commonly accepted in the city industry, if you will. Now, as far as how you must keep your books, that's highly regulated. Yeah, it's extremely detailed on how you must record transactions, as well as how you must report transactions. Lots of requirements there, but when it comes to actual finances, I think the feedback is probably going to come from this financial advisor that you're looking at. I think he can provide you a broader perspective of what other cities of our size are doing. A lot of my cities really like those kinds of inputs. And you know, that, I know, but weren't you?
Oh, the
gonna-
investment archives.
Yeah. And they'll take a step further and look at your books and say, you know,
Yeah, because of what
here's
they,
what other cities are doing.
what they look at is our cash flow. And they base their recommendations on, in regards to how we invest the money in our cash flow. So they take a more deep review on the books.
And bond rating agencies compare you to other cities, so
Yeah.
your bond rating really talks to where you stand with respect to other cities. That's what they thought.
That's what I want to see.
Okay, this report that's here, is it preliminary, do we have it on package?
There was a few corrections that were done, not to the numbers, but to the.
So this
the-
should replace what we haven't sent.
Mhm.
Yeah, but you're gonna get the final report tomorrow.
They're gonna bring one with the
Yes, this is
copies.
just a draft.
They're gonna bring copies to you without the draft on it.
Yeah, bound
They're
and
gonna present
signed.
it, bound and signed, they're gonna bring you a picture one, but we put one in the packet so that you can have the numbers if somebody wanted to have the numbers
The
prior
one
to.
that's got the spirals, that's the one you get tomorrow.
Right, but I just, I want to look at this tonight, so we can get through.
Oh, I
and
took a
then
draft too.
Draft too, yes.
Yeah, they're gonna study their own.
Yeah.
So we wanted to give those numbers out so everybody can not have the first time they see them when they bring them tomorrow. So they'll have more of a bond copy, they want to know if there are any changes.
Did it have?
No, it doesn't have the
Oh,
draft.
it
That's the
does.
one that I have.
Yeah, just, yes.
The numbers are still the
We
same.
didn't change any numbers.
It was mainly just
Typos,
Typos.
titles, and,
wording. I think they just.
oh, sure.
Yeah, did you go some minutes on?
I had it labeled.
Any other questions?
I do, let me know, the staff, are you recommending that we move this forward to the agenda?
Yes.
Any consensus of the committee? Yes. So Connie can report that we met with the committee and the committee had consensus recommending to bring it forward to the council.
Right.
Plus it's already on the agenda.
Well, you can table it, Mayor. Okay.
No, she's dying to do it.
Thank you very much, Pat.
Thank you. And have a pleasure.
It's my first time here with,
Her birthday.
for,
Is it her birthday?